A boy is awakened by some really loud noises in his dreams. A fateful hospital phone call. A stranger in a new land. Today I'm going to use one of these stories to help illustrate the power of adapting in the face of change. So if you're somebody who has gone through changes or is expecting to go through some type of change here in the future, then these principles can help you out a lot. Hello, friends. I'm so happy to be here with you right now. And I'm so grateful for this chance to share some thoughts and some words with you. I am grateful to Rain and to Byron and Casey for the opportunity that I have to do this right now. And as I said before, I want to talk about change and adaptation and change, because it is crucial to our survival, not just in life, but definitely in business. Now, just know and feel confident that we as humans are pre-built for adapting. As humans, we have learned to live in the highest mountains and in the lowest valleys. We've learned to survive in the coldest weather and in the hottest deserts and everywhere in between. As humans, we have learned to run marathons and ultra marathons. Some people are out there running 135 miles in scalding hot weather in less than 24 hours. Incredible as it may sound. We are just the most amazing adaptation system ever built, ever. It isn't always the smartest, the strongest, the fittest that survive. It is they who adapt to the new situation, to the new environment. They are the ones who survive. I really believe that when you become a master at adapting, that you are virtually invincible. And so it really is like a superpower. I think it's Babe Ruth, or at least it is often accredited to him, that said, "It is impossible to defeat someone who doesn't give up." But now imagine not only not giving up, but every time you get up to fight again, you're better because you learned your lesson from before. You don't go and commit the same mistakes because you know what will happen. And so every time you get up, you're different and you're better. That's what adapting can do for each one of us. So as promised, I'm going to share one of those stories to illustrate my point. Boom, 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 boom. It is 1988, and a young boy had gone to sleep just a few hours before. He expected the next day to be absolutely normal. His life had been very uneventful, just a normal 8-year-old who goes to school, plays, and does what 8-year-olds do. But in this night, in his dreams, he kept hearing boom, 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 boom. And confused, trying to figure out what it was, as we often do in our dreams, we try to assign meaning to the things that we hear. He was confused. The confusion increased when a soft voice also appeared in his dream, and it was calling his name. Very soon, this confusion wakes him up. And amid the confusion, he realizes that the sounds actually are not in his dream. The voice isn't in his dream either. They are in the real world. And as he looks up and looks towards the entrance of his bedroom, he sees his mom, and she's army crawling to him and calling out his name. That was the soft voice going, "Get over here, get over here." And so immediately he realizes what is going on. He rolls out of bed, lands on the floor, and army crawls his way to his mom, who then, together go and meet the rest of the family, looking for a safe spot in the home. Now those loud booms were actually explosions. A nearby military school was being attacked in a surprise offensive from the guerrillas. And this is when, or one of the situations, when in 1998 the civil conflict in El Salvador began. Now, as you might have guessed by now, that young boy was me. That was my family. And me, just like many other families in the country, were affected by these circumstances. Turned the world upside down. It is one thing to live in a third world country, and it is a completely different thing to live in a third world country at war. Because, as I said at the beginning of the story, life had been normal. Now, even as an 8-year-old, I remember sitting there and thinking, wow, there's really war outside? Is this really happening? And that's what gunfire sounds like. And are those bombs? Are those grenades? Oh, and oh, is that that's the helicopter? Wait a minute. As the helicopter is shooting around us, trying to drive the guerrillas away, I remember thinking, that's not what it sounds like in the movies. It sounds a little bit different. Actually, it sounds a lot different. And to hear what rocket launchers sound like, to hear rocket launchers shooting just right over your roof and those rockets whistling by not that much higher than the roof over your head. And the entire time, our parents are holding us together, making us into as small a target as we can, trying to place themselves in the best position to serve as a human shield if needed, hoping and praying that the helicopter has good aim and whoever's shooting rockets has good aim so that things don't come flying in through a roof. This is something that I don't talk about very much. I don't talk about it often, and I'm sure that many of you here, many of those of you that have known me for many years, had no idea about this or had never heard this story. And it's because I don't focus on it. I don't think about it very often. It's just something that happened to me a long time ago, and sure, it influenced a lot of things that I do and the way that I think. Uh, but it doesn't define me. And look, I don't want to get carried away, and I feel like I already am. I need to get to my points. So once again, what do I learn from something like this? Number one, anything can happen to anyone at any time. So be prepared. Expect the unexpected. If things have been going good for a long time, then expect the unexpected. Expect that something is going to show up to break up that pattern sooner or later. And in the same manner, if things have been going bad, then cheer up because your turn is coming up soon. Something will change and it'll give you a break because anything can happen to anyone at any time. Also, we have to learn to deal with things as they are, as they show up, not as we wish they were. And this is maybe the toughest thing for me. I always want things the way I want them, exactly how I have envisioned them. And it's something that for me is really, really hard to let go. So here are 3 thoughts that can help you adapt under any situation. These are things that help me. And even though sometimes I forget, when I remember to remember, they make a world of a difference. Number 1, complaining and whining is a waste of energy. You could be using that energy to find the fastest way forward. And think about that question. What is the fastest way forward? Use that energy for complaining to find the fastest way forward. Now, I'm not saying you can never complain. Heck, I do it. It's human. But if you're going to complain, do it while you're working and while you're in the direction of your objectives. Use that energy to get out of that situation that you dislike so much. As long as you're complaining and whining, mentally, you're still in that situation. And just like in life, I can't give you anything if you're holding on to something else. You have to let go before you can receive. Okay, next. What is the alternative? And is the alternative acceptable? If you're going to decide to fight against the current rather than adapting, what are the alternatives? And are those acceptable? I remember a morning when my mom called us from the hospital because they had gone to a checkup. My dad had a very aggressive cancer, and they had bought plane tickets. Fortunately, family was doing well, and they had the means to do something like this. But they bought some plane tickets to fly to the U.S. that same day to look for some better alternatives than what they had been given. And the choices were, well, we stay and we go through these protocols and hope for the best, or again, fly out, go to the US and find better opinions, find better options. It was a hard call to make, especially for them, knowing that they had to leave me and my siblings behind, with some relatives that loved us like their own. It's just not the same as your parents, right? The situation is not the same. And they were going to fly out, and it was indefinite because we didn't know anything. Nobody knew anything. We just knew they were going to be flying out. But to us, that moment, the alternative was to have my dad go through these bad treatments that were probably going to be in vain. And that was not acceptable. So therefore, we took the hard road and we adapted and we adjusted because the alternative just wasn't acceptable. You make your choice. You make your decision as to what is acceptable to you and what isn't. I'm just telling you that asking these type of questions helps. And last but not least, be clear about what it is that you want. Sometimes we fall in love so much with our idea of how things should go on our way to our goals that when they don't, and when they don't go exactly as we expect, we fight. Instead of adapt, we fight that change. And sometimes we fight so much and we give up the real price or an idea of how things should have gone. No plan survives contact with the enemy. Along your way to your goal, is adapting the fastest way, or is it really worth to fight against the current? And you'll find that adapting is the right answer 99% of the times. We have to be prepared for change because life is change and it's never going to stop. Change is going to keep coming. That story of my mom calling us from the hospital happened in January when I was 15. And change didn't stop after that. And it didn't stop after we found out that my dad was going to have his foot amputated, and that was going to be a major impact in our lives. It didn't stop a few months later when we had to move to the US because my parents didn't want us to be apart anymore, and this situation was going to drag on a lot longer than we expected. It didn't stop after that. And change didn't stop after I had to start a new high school for the third time that year. And you would think we had had enough, but my dad had to go and be operated again because now there were tumors in his lungs. And change kept coming. When my dad and I had a conversation, he told me that he was terminal. He didn't have much longer to live. Guys, he was 37. A few days later, the doctor came to see him because he got really, really sick, really bad. And he said, he's got maybe 3 weeks to live. We're so sorry. We lost him 3 days later. I had just turned 17. So it was a couple of rough years. Crazy, very eventful, with lots of opportunities to learn to adapt. I use the word opportunity loosely because what other choice did we have? What alternatives did we really have? What we were trying to do was survive day to day to see what else was coming our way. Anything can happen to anyone at any time. But it has been maybe those 2 years, the ones that have been most influential in my life and that have taught me the value of learning to adapt. And my friends, I don't know exactly if you're able to grasp what I'm saying, but in your business right now, there are things where you need to adapt and where you will need to adapt if you want to reach the goals that you've set for yourself. There will be no other option. Perhaps you may complain that we don't have enough material, or this isn't in my language. They don't make this, or they haven't made this. Then make it yourself. Why are you falling in love with the idea that maybe the company has to provide certain things, which they haven't yet? Maybe they will, but they just haven't yet. Are you going to sit around and watch your business fail just because you're waiting because this is what you think that they should be doing? Do it yourself. What is your goal? Is complaining about the thing getting you closer to that goal? Was your goal to have flyers, or was your goal to get the word out about your products and your business opportunity? Then focus on that. And I just want to clarify one more thing. I'm not telling you this part about my life because I want you to feel bad about me. I don't want you to feel pity on me. I don't need it. I'm not bitter about life. It's just something that's happened to me. That's how my life went. I just wanted to create validation and let you know that I know change can be hard, but it can be even harder if we don't learn to adapt. And eventually things changed. And I've had a beautiful life since then. I love my life. And I have been fortunate enough to have learned from those experiences. And they have influenced me into who I am now, for better or for worse. Some of the things that I've done myself, for me, for my family, for the companies that I've worked for, have been thanks to the way that life forged me. For better or for worse, this is who I am thanks to those experiences. So don't feel bad about me. I love my life. Okay, there are things that I wish I had. Obviously, I wish I would still have some conversations with my dad and things that I would have wanted. I wish he could have met my kids. There's lots of counseling that I wish I could have had with him. Oh, Dad, how am I doing? Am I messing up the boys? What would you do? Dad, tell me, how could I do better? I know my boys could have greatly benefited from me having those. But that's life. And we just have to adapt and adjust so we can advance. Because what is the alternative? Change will continue to happen, and sometimes it'll be for the worse, but often it will be for the better. We just have to be ready to adapt. I'm sending you so much love, my friends, everywhere you are. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope that some of the things that I have shared, even if it's in a small way, that it can help you along your journey. Thank you.